Oh, hey folks! Welcome to the AllTerra shop and another video. As you see, I have a whole smorgasbord of optics here in front of me today. These are all scopes and binos and rangefinders that we have in the shop for upcoming customer rifle builds. And this is a really good representation of the options and lineup of optics that we recommend, sell, like to use. We have extensive experience with all these scopes. We trust them, and we feel that they're a worthy fit on our rifles. We are a full dealer for Nightforce, Zeiss, Swarovski and Kahles, Leupold, and Sig, and so on our website, you may notice that we have all of these options that we're going to talk about today. But if there's a different model scope from one of these manufacturers, or a different reticle or conversion type, whether it's MOA or mils, that you prefer, don't hesitate to get a hold of us and choose a different scope by request, because we can certainly special order. But for this demo here, I kind of want to go through our top recommended scopes, give some details about them, show them up close, describe the user groups that may fit each one, because we have this conversation all the time as we're setting people up with rifle orders on figuring out which scope is going to be the right one for them and their intended use. So I'm just going to start on this side and work our way over. Here we have a couple of Nightforce NX8s. The 2.5 to 20 by 50 is our best seller. I've got a scale over here, so I can just weigh them as we go. Typically, optic weight is a determining factor for a lot of people. So Nightforce NX8 is coming in at 30 ounces on the nose for the 2.5 to 20. That is with these flip up covers on here. They come off real easy if you don't like the flip up covers. And then the 4 to 32 weighs essentially the same, 0.3 ounces heavier for the 4 to 32. However, our preference is the 2.5 to 20. You may notice from experience that when you get into optics and you're going to a high zoom range, for example 32 on that NX8 right there, when you're limited by a 50 millimeter objective, your clarity, visibility, resolution will typically go down a bit at the higher end of the power. We don't see that happen as much on 20 power in the NX8, and so that is our favorite way to go. Plus it's quite a bit shorter, so you get a more compact optic package out of the 2.5 to 20. We have 4 or 5 of these that are house scopes that we do a lot of accuracy testing on. They all have thousands and thousands of shots on them, and we've only ever had to send one in one time for a little bit of parallax work, I think it was. So Nightforce, just legendary for the durability, repeatability. They're not the lightest weight scope available, but the additional weight versus some of these lighter options we get into is definitely going into the reliability and durability of the optic. So hard to go wrong. 1,900 bucks for the 2.5 to 20 and $20.99 for the 4 to 32. Our default reticle and style is MOAR reticle, minutes of angle, and second focal plane. For most of our customers using these as hunting rifles, second focal plane is a good way to go. However, if you have a preference and you want the same thing in a first focal plane, we'd certainly be happy to set you up with one. On to Zeiss here. We do a lot of Zeiss scopes. They are phenomenal. Definitely a little bit of step up in glass resolution and visual experience with the Zeiss over the Nightforce. This is the V8 North America 2.8 to 20 by 56. So you get a bigger objective lens on this optic. We're going to throw it on the scale and see what that costs you weight-wise. 28.8 ounces. So a little over an ounce lighter than the NX8 2.5 to 20. 30 millimeter tube. All of the scopes we're going to talk about here today are at least a 30mm tube. They have the proper reticles to shoot out to distance, hold wind. They are all scopes that we are willing to put on our rifles and set you up to be able to shoot 1,000 yards comfortably. Now, I'm not saying everyone ought to be hunting out there at 1,000 yards. I don't really think that anybody ought to be hunting at 1,000 yards, but it is nice if you have access to a long distance range to practice. If you practice real far, it just makes those hunting closer shots that much easier. This is a $3,899 optic right here. What are you getting with that? Well, you're getting Zeiss's top quality, their best glass in all of their optics lineup, whether it's rifle scopes, binoculars, or spotting scopes. You have just really well-made construction here. They have an illuminated reticle on this. I think every scope in our lineup has illuminating reticles. The fiber optic that is in the Zeiss reticle is very, very fine. We're talking a fraction of the thickness of a human hair, and it sits dead center in the reticle, and then it's easily adjusted on the brightness setting with that knob right there. So just an absolute top tier quality optic right there, and for $38.99, that's what you better be getting. They're not cheap. On the other end of the spectrum from Zeiss, the V4 rifle scopes, and I've told this to a bunch of people over the years because I certainly believe it. This is the best value in all of optics. Sorry. Yes, well, I should say that again because someone was blowing the air. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Zeiss V4 is the best value in all of optics, whether it's, again, rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes. You get a ton of performance out of this V4, the 6 to 24 by 50 for $1,400. Cool features on this. So you have numerous adjustments, 10 different brightness settings for your illuminated reticle. Of course, you've got your parallax knob right there. It's nice and rigid, so it's not going to rotate on you in the field. What I really like is the locking windage knob. So when it's pushed in like this, you cannot turn that windage knob. However, when you pull it out, it unlocks and you're free to dial. So if you're somebody that prefers to dial wind instead of hold wind with your reticle, this is a really nice feature to have. The Nightforce NX8 and the Zeiss V8, and in fact, most of the other scopes here have capped windage. So to make a wind hold, you're going to have to learn to hold that in your reticle, which isn't a big deal, but there's been a lot of instances where I set somebody up behind my rifle, I have them shoot an animal, and if it needs wind, I just go ahead and dial that wind for them and then tell them to hold right where they want to hit. That's a lot easier in the heat of the moment than trying to explain you're going to hold this direction by this many hash marks in your reticle. So that's a nice feature. I've hunted with this Zeiss V4 scope on my rifle for the past couple of years, and between me and friends and family shooting animals, it's 16 for 16. Hasn't missed a critter. So best deal in all of optics right there, the Zeiss V4. I'll come back around and talk about binos at the end. Moving on to Swarovski. So here at the beginning of 2025, Swarovski unveiled their new Z5 Plus and Z5i Plus rifle scopes. These are excellent for anybody who wants to keep their total rifle weight as low as possible. Your mountain rifles, your sheep hunt rifles, one and the same essentially. But this is the 3.5 to 18 by 50, and on the scale, 21 ounces. So we're talking over a ½ pound lighter than the NX8, and just a very, very simple optic. Swarovski did a really good job updating their turrets this year to where it has a locking mechanism, so you can unlock it, you can dial, you can lock it, it won't turn on you, kind of neat. And then underneath the cap, it includes a tool built in for setting your zero stop, which is pretty convenient. And if you want to get a custom yardage turret, We can do that for every scope here. However, on the Swarovski, it's just very simple the way they've set these things up with these different customizable adjustment collars that they put in them. And of course, I'm gonna be really clunky looking here because the camera's rolling. These are also, the ones we offer by default are illuminated reticle. So you have your battery housing here. They call this the cockpit. And different brightness settings on off with those buttons right there. Pretty dainty on the parallax adjustment knob. I would say that if you're somebody that really likes to achieve a fine tune of your parallax adjustment, maybe the Zeiss or the Nightforce is going to be a little more user friendly on that aspect, just based on my experience using and shooting these. However, again, everything's got a trade-off. The weight savings with these optics are phenomenal, and the glass quality is as good as it gets. It's Swarovski glass. I'm going to throw the 5-25 by 56 on the scale, and it's 22.5 ounces. Again, almost a half pound lighter than the 4-32 Nightforce. Just very simple. That 5-25 by 56, it's pretty long, but it balances well and looks and feels good on the rifles. So, and these are pretty reasonably priced. We're at $21.99 for the 3.5 to 18 by 50 and $22.69 for the 5-25. And we like the 4W reticle in these. They're very simple, clean, fine crosshair reticle with hash marks on your windage for holding wind. Moving on, Kahles. Kahles, and boy, the difference in setting this scope down and picking the Kahles up, the weight difference is big. So pretty heavy optic. 33.5 ounces for the Kahles K318i. We also offer and use the 525i. So 318 is a 3-18 by 50. The 525 is a 5-25 by 56, which is quite a bit bigger optic. You get into this class of optic, you're looking at $32.99 and $33.99 for the 5-25 by 56. They are a tactical competition style, very robust, strong, positive clicking optic. I wouldn't recommend this for somebody that is looking to put together a lightweight mountain hunting rifle, but for the platforms where folks want to go and bang a lot of rounds down range, long range, and put them through the abuse of, say, competition style shooting, Kahles is a really good optic. These are first focal plane only. So by default, if you order a Kahles from us, it's going to come in first focal plane. We like the MOAK reticle in these. You can see the knobs are just oversized, robust. Parallax sits on top, so it's real easy to reference and see as you're making your adjustments. Really, really nice optics. And they are a subsidiary brand of Swarovski. Very good glass, very good quality all around. Moving on to the Leupold VX6HD. This is a 4-24 by 52, which we don't do a lot of these. We certainly can. It doesn't make our short list of base offerings. In fact, the one that does is the 3-18 by 44. I had one here, but we had to get it onto a customer's rifle and get it out to the range. And actually, here it is. I just went and grabbed that rifle off the rack. So this is a 22-inch Mountain Shadow Carbon 300 PRC with the Leupold 3-18 by 44 on there. We got them taped up a little bit so when it goes to the range we don't mark it up too much. And this rifle weighs 8 pounds on the nose, 8 pounds even with this scope on there. So for keeping your rifle lightweight, this is a really nice way to go. These are the Gen 2 models, so Leupold's made some nice updates, you know, like taking the cap off is really clean. The 3-18 by 44 is a 30 mil tube, much more compact and lightweight than this. This guy here is coming in at 26 ounces, so pretty lightweight given the objective size, the 34 tube, the overall size and build of this scope. Still pretty lightweight. However, if it were me, I would in this magnification range and size of scope, I'd personally opt for the V4 6-24. But if you like that 3 to 18 by 44 size, they come in a bit lighter, and it's a really good option for a mountain rifle. So that sort of covers our baseline of recommended rifle scopes. Again, if you want something different, we're happy to do it. It's just we get it on order and get it in. A lot of these we tend to keep a few in stock. Moving on to optics, glassing optics and range-finding optics. We do a lot of these where we'll include a Zeiss Victory RF, a 10 by 42 range-finding binocular with ballistics. This is the new Swarovski EL Range 12 by 42. That one came out in January. They've done the 10 powers for years. And these are really cool and very user-friendly because they have built-in ballistics, which we will shoot your rifle at 500 and 1,000 yards, gather your true trajectory data, upload that information into the binoculars, whether it's the Zeiss or the Swarovski. And so every time you range a target or range an animal, it's going to run a calculation that takes your current density altitude, your temperature and pressure, which contributes to density altitude, angle, all the different parameters that will then provide you on screen virtually immediately an adjustment come up so that you can dial right to the number your binocular tells you and hold dead on, or at least hold dead on for elevation with your dial and then hold your wind, whatever that wind call ends up being. So that's a really good, of course, you know, you're looking at $34.99 added for the EL Range, $39.99 for the Victory RF by Zeiss. However, it's kind of the ultimate easy button, pun intended, setup for making accurate shots in the field very efficiently. This here is just a same thing, but 8 by 32. The customer wanted a little bit more compact glassing setup. And so it is pretty nice to have all of your ballistics and glassing set up in one device that's a very, as good as it gets as far as glassing quality also. So kind of a two birds with one stone. If you don't already have a top tier pair of binoculars, this is a pretty smart route to go because you're getting more bang for your buck by having the ballistics built in. This is the Sig Kilo 8K, our one handheld rangefinder with built-in ballistics option that we offer at $14.99. It's a really good value. They're very accurate. In fact, maybe a little bit more accurate on the ballistics data with the applied ballistics program that's built into these. And same thing, they calculate all of your environmental parameters, angle, etc. At the push of a button, it's going to pop up and it's going to give you your solution to then just dial into your scope. So maybe a good option if you've already got a high-end set of binoculars and you just want to have a dedicated range-finding device that's paired with your ballistics. Something else that's cool on these, they pair up with the Onyx app, and so you can say it's before dark and you just hammer a big buck across the canyon. Well, by the time you get over there, maybe it's going to be dark. You can range and place a pin on where you hit your animal, or maybe the last place you saw it go, and then you can navigate to that geographic location using your Onyx Hunt app. So it's pretty neat. Anyway, that I guess is a fairly quick and dirty overview on our favorite optics. If you have questions, feel free to call, and well, talk to you next time.